The trial of Alice Starkey, British landscape artist and portrait painter, took a sensational turn this morning. Accused of obtaining £20,000 by deception from Walter Lander, the wealthy American collector, for a painting purporting to be the Bacchus of Benedetto Trovato, Miss Starkey has testified that she sold the painting in good faith, having acquired it in a job lot of canvases during a tour of Italy. She has also stated that although she knew of the Bacchus hanging in the collection of the Duc de Séverin, she had thought her discovery merely another rendering of the theme by the same artist. Quentin Brooke, a leading art critic, seconded by Arthur James Goody, an art expert, dismissed Miss Starkey's painting as an obvious forgery. But now, Gustave de Montauk, world authority called by the defence, has turned the tables by giving evidence that tests carried out by him showed that the Bacchus of the Duc de Séverin is in fact a forgery.
Mr. de Montauk, I now have a few questions of a rather different nature for you.
Of course, dear young lady.
Would you say that it is very difficult to tell a Trovato painting for certain?
Difficult? Well, yes, I suppose it is.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, of all post-Titian painters of Venice, he has the most elusive style. There could be little error with Titian himself or many another disciple, but with Trovato, yes, mistakes could quite easily be made.
Would you be surprised to learn you'd made a mistake yourself, Mr. de Montauk?
I beg your pardon.
I'm asking you, can the expert be deceived with a painter like Trovato?
Oh, yes, patently. For example, everyone of significance thought that Exhibit 2 was a genuine Trovato when de Séverin acquired it. Had I not followed up a certain suspicion with my own and obtained proof to the contrary, I might have arrived at that conclusion myself.
And where the expert can be deceived, a person of lesser knowledge has had very little chance of knowing.
That would be my judgment, yes.
Thank you, Mr. de Montauk.
Now, to eliminate all possible confusion, Mr. de Montauk, you say Exhibit 2, the property of the Duc de Séverin, is a forgery, and Exhibit 1 is the true Trovato. Is that right?
My tests prove that Exhibit 2 is a forgery, of recent origin, too.
Quite, but do they prove that Exhibit 1 is a true Trovato?
I'm sorry, I'm afraid I don't quite understand.
Now, you tell us certain suspicions of your own cause you to have a secret analysis carried out of Exhibit 2 when it hung in the Duc de Séverin's collection. Now, what were these suspicions?
Well, I was a bit bothered by what I might describe as an absence of patrician assurance in the painting.
An absence of patrician assurance?
Yes, you see, Trovato was very much a painter of his time and place. He accepted elegance and a certain effeteness as normal and natural to human life. Now, the Bacchus in Exhibit 1 there is a pastoral figure, but there's nothing open air about him, if you know what I mean. He's really just a lazy, rather soft young man of Venice who happens to have taken off all his gorgeous clothes. No. In this painting, we get a tribute to the delicate, the cosseted, the dissipated. It was precisely because Exhibit 2, I found no signs of this. The moment I saw it, it seemed to lack all these characteristics that I suspected it. And as events have demonstrated, I was completely right. No, Exhibit 1 is the genuine Trovato.
Mr. de Montauk, now is the time, I think, to tell you that an expert technical analysis of the painting Exhibit 1 is already before the court, proving it to be a modern forgery.
I beg your pardon?
I'm afraid it's so. I request the witness be shown the papers marked Exhibit 3.
But this is impossible. Why was I not informed of this when I arrived?
Well, the court is dealing in a difficult and imprecise area, Mr. de Montauk. The uninfluenced opinion of expert witnesses of primary importance to it.
Both paintings are forgeries?
So it would seem.
I have no further questions.
I have no re-examination, Your Honor.
You may stand down then, Mr. de Montauk.
It's impossible. Impossible.
Mr. Lotterby, perhaps at this point you would wish to call a further expert witness.
No, Your Honor. I don't feel any true purpose could be served by that. Frankly, the two world experts on Trovato are, or were, Mr. Brooke and Mr. de Montauk.
Yes, I'm inclined to agree with you. Thus, we now have the position where the accused is alleged to have sold for gain the forgery of a painting which is in itself a forgery. That is, if there is any genuine Trovato backers at all. However, the question still remains whether or not Miss Starkey knew that the painting she sold was not by Trovato. Miss Tate?
Your Honor, if I may crave the court's indulgence for just one moment, please. Your Honor, with the court's permission, I should like to recall the accused to the witness box, Miss Alice Starkey.
Very well, Miss Tate, if you so wish. May I hope that it is with the intention of shedding a little light on our darkness?
I trust so, Your Honor.
I must remind you that you're still under oath, Miss Starkey.
Yes. Actually, I wanted to make a kind of statement. Is that allowed?
A statement?
Explanation. Something... Well, you see, I knew it might happen that both these paintings would be shown to be forgeries here in court. I knew that, but so long as it didn't happen, I thought it would be in my best interest to keep quiet about it. Now that it has, I'm obliged to talk.
Perhaps you'd better tell us what you mean, Miss
Yes.
Starkey.
I've never had much luck as a painter, you know. From the beginning, the critics jumped on me. Weakness of line, absence of technique, everything you've heard earlier and more. But the odd thing is, the one real talent I had in art, they never even knew about.
I thought you were going to tell us something about the paintings in court.
I am. I'm a superb copyist, you see. I found that out in my student days. Put a Rembrandt, a Van Gogh, almost anything up before me, and I can reproduce it. Take it down like shorthand. That gift for artistic mimicry that Quentin Brooke talked about. Something you're just born with. Well, one day in Venice, about 10 years ago, I was copying some Titians just for practice. And by chance, I'd just been reading up about Van Meegeren. You remember Van Meegeren?
Miss Starkey.
Well, it's very important, honestly. Van Meegeren was the Dutch artist who, after the war, was accused of collaborating with the enemy because he'd handed over some Vermeers to top Nazis, only in fact, he'd forged the paintings himself to keep the real Vermeers out of Nazi hands. His techniques of aging paint and so on were so precise as to fool all the art experts of the time. Only when I studied them, it didn't strike me at all difficult. I altered my Titian copy from the original in various particulars, and in fact subjected it to the whole Van Meegeren process. And that's the painting you see there that's hung in the Duc de Severin's gallery for the last 7 years. Just for a name, I signed it, Benedetto Trovato.
Now, just a minute, Miss Starkey. Are you telling us that, in fact, you painted Exhibit 2 and attached a false name to it?
Yes. I painted all the existing Trovatos at one time or another. Exhibit 1 here was my latest, a repeat of my first, which was rather silly yet. Mr. Goody told you it's a gift of a special sort. It wasn't the kind of talent anybody would give me much credit for, you see, but I needed to use it. How on earth was I to know fools of critics would start talking about Trovato as though he'd really existed. I didn't do the paintings for money. There wasn't anybody who would have paid tuppence for them. I just chucked them out afterwards. But they began to be discovered.
Then you are the painter, Trovato.
I am.
Are you quite serious?
The name itself is a bit of a giveaway.
A name?
There's an old Italian proverb which means, if it is not true, at least it is well thought out. Si non è vero, è ben trovato.
Ben Trovato.
Exactly. Benedetto Trovato.